bit.
You mentioned Brett Smith, concussion, not expected to play this weekend, I'm assuming. But we got Chris Auger back this past week. What kind of impact does he have when you see 61 on the ice now?
Well, I think he's like, a basketball sixth man. He's the 10th forward, so he's not got a regular shift. But when you put him in there, he seems to step it up a little bit for everybody. Mm-hmm. He's like the sixth man in basketball. You want your sixth man to increase the pace a little bit, and I think Chris does a really good job at that. What I've noticed is he's not got a regular shift at the start of the games. He's got a regular shift at the end of the games, though, and that's more important.
That is not where you start, it's where you finish. Dustin Molly, groin, talk about where he is health-wise, and any other injuries that of note that
I think they're just waiting on Dustin and Brett to get healthy and then see what happens. And I think they're going to be very careful with both of them because I think you could argue Dustin's been the best defenseman this year. He's been the most consistent guy every game this year. And, Brett's been the leading scorer. So since this is the second time for Dustin on the IR with the groin strains, I don't think you're going to want to push him back. You're going to want to make sure he's absolutely ready to go.
You mentioned the defenseman because this is the area I wanted to talk about. Brett Henley gets a goal, third goal. He's not known for a score. That's a lot of goals in the season for Brett Henley.
Yeah, that's his career high.
Yeah. So as far as he goes, has he kind of adopted the Kevin Bertram type of role? I know he's a little bit more of an enforcer, would throw down a little bit more than Kevin does. But is he kind of the veteran presence that is a calming influence on whoever he plays with back there?
Well, if you look at when Brent's playing again, he's out there every time at the end of the game or on a big penalty kill. He's the guy that's out there. Him and Jamie Lovell both. I'm sorry, Bryant Molly both. I'm sorry. And they've both been out there in the key situations. So, yeah, he is taking the Bertram role in that. He's getting a lot of ice time on the penalty kill, especially when there's been so many penalty kills lately, too, which they've just been amazing on. It's 6 for 67 now. It's just incredible. Yeah. They've risen to second in the league, which is they were 12th or 14th at the start. It's just incredible how much they've improved on that.
And then on the flip side, you look at the offensive production of some of the defensemen. Frankie DeAngelis, a couple goals this weekend. He's had a slow start to the beginning of the season, as opposed to last year where he had a great first half and made the All-Star team. So what do you expect from Frankie going forward? Is this going to be a springboard to more offense, more goals from Frankie? Because he can score.
I think it depends on his forward lines. Last weekend, there wasn't a lot of scoring out of the, Stefan Thorne scored, Tom Mealy scored. Kaylee got in on a couple. It was more the third line than it was the first and the second lines. Again, you've got to get those guys going again, and I think that'll take care of itself with Frankie then, too.
Artem Podshendelov doing some nice things this year. 13 goals, I believe his 13th goal was on Friday. Where have you seen the biggest improvements from number 55 this year?
I'm not really sure I have.
Really?
And I don't mean that as a slam. I think he's played at a fairly consistent level, but that's the thing for him. If he played consistently high all the time, he's got the most talent on the team. And sometimes you see it some periods, and some periods you don't. But that's true of anybody at AA hockey level.
Sure.
It's just who wants to push to play at a higher level. And with Brett going out, I would have thought this was a chance for Artem to really step up and lead some. And I just don't necessarily have seen that.
What makes him dangerous? Is it his speed? Is it
it's his maneuverability.
Yeah.
And his stick handling. He's the one guy on the team who can really stretch the defense. Bobby Chaumont does a lot of that too. He's the one guy that the defense has to go, oh crap, there he is. You got to keep an eye on him all the time, even if he's not your guy.
Now this coming weekend, they're kind of in the same position that Tulsa was this past weekend, where they travel across the country and they play 2 games in what should be a hostile environment. K's at Arizona Friday and Saturday. So obviously Nick's played on that ice recently in the CHL All-Star game, so that's going to be, I don't want to say less intimidating, but he's familiar with that barn. So what are you looking for this weekend out of the Komets? Because that first place lead is shrinking, and Evansville is going to get a lot more games over the next couple
Evansville's
weeks.
going to pass on no matter what
to make some points.
Do, I think. I don't think there's anything that Komets can do. If they win their 4 games the next 2 weeks, I think they're still going to drop because Wichita and Evansville both play 6 games. They have some games in hand, and this is where the Komets pay for them. But the schedule is 2 games at Arizona, a game at Quad City, and a home game against Dayton. So you can win those games. You better win those games. You better win at least 3 out of the 4. And I want to see them come out strong right from the start. I don't want to see any, oh boy, they just got a goal, so we got to pick it up. I mean, I want to see them doing it right from the start. They can really concentrate on making these games a little easier for themselves, like they did Sunday in Quad City.
And it's something that, in talking to Colin last week at practice, that's something he mentioned. He says, in the NHL, the team that scores the first goal wins 60 to 65% of the time. We've got to do that.
Right. And then they can put their, like yesterday, they just smothered Quad City because their forecheck, I mean, how many times did Quad City ice the puck in the first half of the first period? Because they couldn't get the puck out of the zone. They were already down 1-0, so they were panicking and they were just whipping it out. And the Komets kept the pressure on, and then they got 2-0, and then it's a totally different game.
All right, so the Komets with 2 on the road at Arizona this week. We'll be back next Monday to talk Komet hockey. He's Blake Seaving on the News Sentinel. Check out the new website of the News Sentinel. It's pretty awesome. And the new blog site. I think it's not new blog site, but redesigned blog site.
We're working on it, yeah.
Yeah, a work in progress, but I'll tell you, it's going to be good stuff when it's all totally ironed out. He's Blake. I'm Glenn. We'll see you next week.